of this lovely checkup here. And I'll do a quick bio for you. Tracy is a Honesdale native, and Tracy did her BA in Pepperdine University in California. She did it in telecommunications. Then she did a master's degree in education. Then she did a second master's in library science from Claremont University, and she is one of Laura Bush's cohort scholars. She's been a member of the choir in St. John's Church for over 20 years. And this I have to read. She's active in many community boards, for example, Wayne County Housing Authority, Wayne Pike Workforce Alliance, Wayne Tomorrow, Bill May Foundation, PA Integrated Library Service Boards. She loves to travel, has her scuba license, and was thrilled to join us today.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, and it sounds far more impressive than it is. I also understand that you had Sheila last week, so sorry. This is not a Sheila level presentation. I'm just delighted to be here from the standpoint of representing public libraries and the community hubs that we provide. This particular group of people provides a community atmosphere, and I think those two are very connected. I think people are looking for places to be joyful and to have conversation and to be welcomed. So I wasn't quite sure what you wanted or how long you wanted me to go on. So I just wrote up a little bit of a story of how I came to be part of the library community and what we do. So Sheila, if I'm going on too long, get the hook, because I don't want to keep people longer. Yeah. So to get at this, we all come at what we do in a very roundabout sort of way. I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s. I was a latchkey kid who spent a lot of time up in trees reading, outside creating dangerous games with my siblings, and riding my bicycle wherever I pleased. We were pretty much practically feral children. Our parents had no idea where we were or what we were doing. We learned from mistakes, and let's be honest, when I talk about these times with people my own age, we're actually kind of surprised that we're all still alive. But there's a poster from that time period that hangs in a bunch of classrooms and businesses that states, everything I learned in life, I learned about in kindergarten. For me, everything I learned from books at the library. And let's be honest, I am me, so a lot of television and a lot of movies, but mostly books. And one of the places that I would include in my feral adventures on a weekly basis was our local library. At that time, it was located on Main Street in Honesdale, and I loved going into the library to make new discoveries. I loved that it always smelled like dust and pages and old crinkly paper. And I liked that it was quiet. Spoiler alert, our library is not remotely quiet anymore. Sorry about that, but it's part of community. I liked that it was quiet because my sisters were very social, and this was the one place that even they had to be quiet, so I was pretty excited to be there. The librarians were very old school. They had their beautiful outfits, and they're usually glasses in a bun, let's be honest. It is what it is. Shockingly, I don't get mistaken for a librarian very often. Sorry, Gary and Dubuque, who had the misfortune of sitting next to me on an airplane and didn't put his ear pods in fast enough when he asked me what I did, and made the disparaging comment, "That's still a thing?" Gary could now probably run a nonprofit because I talked his ear off the entire time. Anyway, the librarians all seemed to me as a child to be in about their mid 60s or 70s at the time, but they were probably like 35, 40, super professional, and you didn't mess with them. But they all had that twinkle, that spark in their eye that let you know that if you caught it once in a while, you suspected that there was far more to them than than they appeared. I always suspected CIA or perhaps ninjas. They remembered me though, and they remembered what I liked, And if you were a reasonably well-behaved kid, they'd order special things for you and they would remember, and they treated you like you were the most special thing that walked into that room. You never knew what you were going to find at the library. I was a curious kid. I was hopeful for a treasure map that would lead me on an adventure like the Goonies. I wanted to look at books about space, stars, the ocean, mysteries. And let's be honest, lost languages, Bigfoot, Nessie, a chupacabra. I was that weird kid. And I had no understanding that adults weren't there in my head with me. So we would have long conversations about books I read. Looking back on it now, the books that I loved the most define kind of who I am at this point. Alfred Hitchcock and the Three Investigators to Sweet Valley High, Island of the Blue Dolphins to Narnia. I was the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I still go out and hug them. And I take things that made you conscious of taking care of people and taking care of community. Country Bunny and the Little Golden Shoes. You can break barriers. You can do anything that you put your mind to, and you could be accepted and equal. All that from a story about a country bunny mom who had the confidence and wherewithal to try out to be the Easter Bunny. You don't think about it as a kid, but it was pretty cool. Lord of the Rings, friendship, volunteer, die for what you believe in, To Kill a Mockingbird. These were all life lessons and things that help us all examine who we are. As I hit my teens, this is for you people who we were just talking about book banning. So I love to push the limits to see if those librarians were serious about me being able to check out whatever I wanted, no questions asked. So I made it my personal mission to pick up all of the books in the library that I thought were going to put off red flags, bodice rippers, flags, things on horror, alien abductions, anything that would really, I thought, freak an adult out. Not even a blink. They would, just to their credit, look at my pile and say, "Are you going to get through those in a week?" And when I came back in, they basically would say, "Any questions, anything you want to talk about, anything you didn't understand?" And it was pure bliss. I was the queen of the world, no restrictions. I could check out whatever I wanted. Read all you want, we'll make more. And while I love the library, shockingly, never once in my young life or high school years did I ever think, gee, when I grow up, I want to be a librarian. It just wasn't in me. I'd love to be in charge of a nonprofit and have to figure out budgets all day. Fast forward to looking at colleges. The only 3 restrictions I had: has to have a film production studio, it has to have an English department that's awesome, and it has to be in California. Because where else was I going to go to direct the next Indiana Jones and Star Wars? I ended up choosing a small school in Southern California that was piloting a great books colloquium, which to me was just amazing. 8 courses, all on the great books. Now, the definition of whose great books, we got into a lot of conversations about later, but we can talk about that individually. It was small and hands-on, and arguably had one of the most beautiful libraries overlooking the Pacific. I spent a lot of time there studying, air quotes. Bonus highlight that they had a travel abroad program, and volunteerism, philanthropy, and always giving back to the community was what they stood for. The school's motto was freely received, freely give, which honestly, as a kid who was raised Catholic, sort of, I didn't recognize as a Bible verse. I just thought it was a really cool quote about being a good human. The church was the school was associated with a church. We were required to take classes in Old Testament, New Testament, and thank goodness for that Buddhism class, because that was the one that got my sanity through. My first questions were kind of basic. Is it okay to highlight the Bible? And I didn't know that there were different versions. So it was kind of an eye-opener for me. We were required to go to weekly meetings called convocation, which speakers like you are doing here shared important life lessons. Basically, what happened was volunteerism was ingrained in us, giving back, being part of your community, and basically doing what you could do with whatever your personal success was to help your community grow. And I realized that that was going to be a big part of who I was. The film industry that I tried to break into for about 10 minutes before I realized I was going to have to change my entire personality wasn't going to fulfill that for me. So I went back and became an educator, because if I was going to warp young minds, not through film, I was going to do it through teaching and books and being able to help them grow as little humans through all of their book choices and helping them figure out who they were. Around that time, I also discovered I'd been away for about 10 years and I wanted to come back and watch my own nephews and nieces grow up and be part of our community. So I came back, and there was an ad for a part-time children's librarian in the newspaper. I didn't think I was qualified, which is something that my then director thought was hilarious, because I was actually quite overqualified. But the rest is basically history. I started in teens and children's programming, and I had the delight of meeting and working with wonderful families and wonderful kids. And it just grew from there. At one point, they just said to me, "Hey, do you want to go for your MLS? Because we need a director." And my personal director wanted to retire. So I said, "Sure, why not?" This is what I live for. I loved working with kids and working with families and working with the underserved. Currently at our library, we work with a lot of other nonprofits and social services to create positive change in our community. Along with traditional things like children's story time, our children's librarian now goes out, and this kind of connects with what you were talking about earlier. She goes into Ellen Memorial and works in the Alzheimer's unit. Children with the Alzheimer's patients and families having a story time, and watching that. I went and I was in tears, because it was so beautiful what was happening between the kids and the families and the patients, and the families that were there supporting their loved ones through music and stories. We do Snug as a Bug story time. We have our librarian on Sunday nights who on Facebook Live from her house is dressed in PJs and does a story time for her from her house, so that families that can't get to us during regular hours still get that wonderful feeling of having a story time. Kids can come and read to a therapy dog. There are teen programs, including STEM nights, where we have robotics contests and kids get to build things that I basically put out on the table and go, "How about you figure out how to do this? Because Miss Tracy doesn't have a clue." The wide variety of programs offered for adults based on lifelong learning are all through volunteers in our community. We can't afford to pay people to do these programs. They come out of the goodness of their hearts. Sheila's done some. We've had a bunch of different people in the community just come to us and say, "I'd like to learn about this or that." We have a canasta group, a knitters group, everything from the paranormal to art and healing and basics and gardening and computer courses. Whatever you want, we'll get it for you. But it's because people in our community care and volunteer their time to do it. We also take into consideration our patrons who can't get to the library during normal business hours. So we have online apps. You can download the Libby app and be able to listen to books on tape, which isn't actually a thing anymore. I just still say tape because I'm old. And then there are books that you can just download to your computer and read. We also have something called Hoopla, which you can download music, movies, television, great courses. Again, if you can't get to us, we want you to be able to have free access to things. Creative Bug, if you're a knitter or you want to learn how to do an art program. A to Z Foods, if you need a recipe or you want background on the cultural history of the foods that you're eating. That's all online, and we have it, and it's available to you for free. So please read it. Free Wi-Fi. Traveling salespeople are running their businesses out of our libraries. We have really clean bathrooms, so come on in. We have volunteers who shelve, run the circ desk, keep the outdoor equipment clean, and we have an army of people who donate their time, talent, and skills and money to help the library's legacy continue. Your recent donation of $5,000 helped secure our outdoor ramp. we were having problems with a very old railing, and the ability of parents to get in with strollers, of people in wheelchairs and on walkers to use that ramp. It was a gift, and gifts like yours make the library more accessible to everyone. So thank you for that. You also help us keep our doors open. Our library is not funded the same way as it is in New York. 20% of it comes from state allocations, 30% from the county budget at the pleasure of the county commissioners, who luckily value what we do. The other 50% is raised locally yearly from events and fundraising and donations. So try imagining your spending for a year, but not having 50% of it and still trying to do all that you can do to help the community. That's where the community hub that we are kicks into action. The library has a friends group, many of whom are part of your group, and they put all of their life lessons into helping us grow. We have a staff that leads with kindness and works hard on site and out in the community, serving on boards and partnering with other nonprofits. We have a library board who advocates in the community, works on funding, but mostly we have a lot of volunteers within the business and private sectors who donate their time, their talent, and yes, their finances to make sure that the library grows. We're loud and fun and interesting and open 45 hours a week. We've become more than a library. We're a community hub where people come to laugh, learn, enjoy, read the paper, charge their phones, check out a book, stay warm in the winter, have a chat, run their startup company, cool off in the summer, meet up with other patrons, argue, and see what's going on in the community. I feel like I'm a lucky person because I get to use all of my weird education and my personality to keep a place I adore and that raised a feral child into me vital and here for the next generation. So in closing, when I travel, I visit libraries. I'm just geeky that way. I've been to a tiny one in the Hawaiian island of Molokai, and I've been to I always mispronounce it, Bodleian, Oxford. Anyway, and good old Payson Library overlooking the Pacific Ocean. But my favorite story is when I visited the British Library one day. There's a museum of wonderful items off to the left near the gift store when you enter. I wandered in and I stopped speechless. Jane Austen's writing desk, handwritten lyrics from the Beatles, original drawings from Beatrix Potter. I knew they had the Magna Carta and the Gutenberg Bible, but I hadn't gotten there yet. And I was already tearing up a bit just being in this room. It was that level overwhelming. And a guard came up to me and he said, "Love, I can see that you're really enjoying being here. Do you know that we have the Magna Carta and the Gutenberg Bible? I can show you where that is." Wiping tears from my eyes, this always cracks me up. I said, "Yes, thank you, but I just kind of need a minute." He jumped back, shocked, and he goes, "Oh my God, you're American." The shock in his voice was mildly insulting, but I chuckled and said, "Why, yes, I am. We do know how to read." His response was, "But we just thought you didn't." Huh. This was classic too. Huh. Well, I guess we really shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Shame on me. Come with me, miss. Let me correct my mistake. He gave me a lovely tour in the rest of the wonders while still shaking his head and muttering, "Well, wonders never cease." Proving once again that the library, in this marvelous melding of people and ideas that might never have met or been introduced, bring people together, learning, humor, community, volunteerism, joy, learning, and fun. As Hermione Granger always says, when in doubt, go to the library. It truly is for everyone. I have some handouts in the back if you would like to learn more about the Wayne County Public Library or our 7 libraries in Wayne County. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my love of community and libraries and people. And thanks for doing what you do within your own communities. It means the world to people.
Guys,
I can take questions. Sorry. Yes.
I'm a resident here in New York State. Can I apply for a library card?
You absolutely can. We do tend to charge maybe $5 to $10 for out-of-staters if you don't have an actual residence in Pennsylvania. But we would love to have you.
That doesn't bother me. Yeah, that's for a year. Right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
But thank you, because again, being this close, and we struggle with that because we are so on the border. Yeah. Half the time, it's just kind of like, So depending on, we try to make a little bit of money, but we love for everybody to have access. So thanks and welcome. Come over. Yes.
Steve's a Mensa member, so we really do want to see him.
Yes. Absolutely. Like I said, the point is to get more people in. We also did away with fines completely. It's a ridiculous old school thing that doesn't actually raise money and just basically makes people angry. Yes, we want our books back so that other people can check them out, but getting them back for no purpose other than putting them back on the shelf is ridiculous. I'd check them all out to you if I could. We do need to see that they come back every once in a while so other people know they're there, but we are fine free completely.
Is the hoopla available in all libraries? There was another one that Tustin was using.
So there's also Canopy. There's Canopy and Hoopla, and it depends a lot on what your library can afford. And even within, I'll be honest, with the Hoopla platform, Hoopla has become very popular and it's becoming a little bit hard to pay for that all the time. So we like being able to provide it, but sometimes we have to put a cap on things if it gets a little too popular. So, or we just do a different fundraising campaign so that people can donate directly to that. But yeah, Canopy is good as well. Yes.
Can you give us an update on how your library is approaching the current situation we have throughout the country? Of course, we live in an area that's not like some other areas, but how has that affected you?
Are you talking about regarding to banning books? What started to happen, because we have the 7 libraries in Wayne County, we've always dealt with that mildly. It's usually angry parents in the teen section. We have a very specific collection development policy, and we work with parents because, again, the initial thing that usually happens is that it's a parent who was shocked by what their child read and asked them about. So it's more of a just listening type of situation first. And again, leading with kindness. This is a parent that didn't know how to deal with a question that their child asked them. So they need to express that. We listen. We ask why they were so surprised. We asked if we can help them. You know, my first question is, aren't you glad your child came and asked you? This started a conversation. And we're not really judging what kids read. It's a window into another world. And wouldn't you rather them express it that way than actually getting involved with drugs or sex or rock and roll or whatever you were freaked out by? The other end of that is just being able to have the conversation of, okay, this is a book you didn't like, but for another family, this represents their family. So should I be allowed to tell you what you read? Would you like, who's your favorite author? Would you like me to take that off the shelf with no regard to your feelings? Once you have that conversation and there's a little bit more time involved, it usually turns around. When it doesn't, we allow them to write up a reason why they don't particularly like the book or think it belongs where we put it, and we review it. The Wallenpaupack School District was hit very hard by some outside sources that were organized with an agenda. We worked with them to try to help them develop policies, and it's different from a K-12 perspective than public libraries. So it is a little bit different. Our stance is basically you come in and you pick out and you read whatever you like. I don't like every book that's in our library, but over my dead body is somebody going to tell me that it can't be there. So there's that feral part again. But it's a hot button item, but there are different agendas involved. Some is genuine parent meltdown because they don't know how to deal. And some of it is just organized people who have an agenda that they, want to control everything. So we're supposed to be here for everyone, and I take that very seriously. So that's how we deal with it. We do banned books displays. We do pride displays. People get angry at us all the time. My staff is very, very good at listening first. And truly, most people just want to be heard, and then they go. If it escalates beyond that, we have steps involved. Does that help?
Is there any guidelines set by the state of Pennsylvania that help you out in terms of, when you get this barrage of outsiders that would nefarious?
Not really. We're on our own, and
I am knowing the answer. But.
Sure, but and I mean, school. It also goes to how much do we want their say to count, because that goes back and forth with who's ever in charge. And again, whoever is in office shouldn't have an effect on what you can read. Plain and simple. Yes.
Just wanted to check in with the folks on Zoom.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
I was a child who was not a good reader.
Yes.
And so I love the libraries because I went with my older cousins and I love looking at the books. Of course, I only was interested in the ones that had nice pictures in it and stuff like that. I was just wondering if there's any programs for children who have dyslexia or any kind of disability as far as reading at your library.
So our children's librarian does a lot with, honestly, with autistic and sensory situations for children. As far as kids who are struggling readers, basically the reading to the therapy dog so that they gain confidence has been a really wonderful thing. We also have some online programs where the children can actually listen while they're seeing the text, and the text pops up highlighted. So that has helped some of the children. But as for an in-person, that would be something that I could talk to her about, because I think just developing the getting rid of the fear of actually reading and developing confidence is part of that. Does that help at all? Or
I mean, I was, I teach or taught dyslexics, so I know what it entails, and it's the Orton-Gillingham method. And I don't know if anybody around has that in their back pocket, but that's the way to go if anyone shows up with that method. It's really great.
And honestly, that is wonderful information for me to have. So if you even could kind of pass that along to somebody here, I can pass it along to her, because we want to serve as many families as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I know in the schools here, I'm in Pennsylvania in Easton, and I know in New York as well, they have the Wilson method. It's kind of taught in the schools, people have to be trained. I don't know if they have that up there, but there might be a teacher up there that knows it, that would be willing to volunteer.
That is actually a really good point too. We do have a good relationship with the school districts, so I could ask about that as well. Thank you.
I believe it could be very useful and helpful. That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Sheila?
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. The organized groups, two of the individuals ran for the school board, won't fall pack, and they were defeated. So you're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. I think it's also just there are a lot more people out there who don't really want to be told what they can and can't read, and they did step up. So that was fantastic. Anybody else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to do closing words. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. And Stephen, would you come up and extinguish the candle, please? Thank you. Now I'd like to invite everybody for refreshments in the back of the room. And thank you all so much for coming. Joan, did you want to say
And I
something?
just like to say goodbye to everybody in Zoom.
Bye.
Adieu.
Gloria, oh, yes,